Are there different committees on the city council, and how do we learn how to navigate these?
Well, Elkhart, I'll let Arvis speak for Elkhart. They operate a little bit differently than the city of Goshen does. We don't actually have any council committees. We have council members that are assigned to the various departments as liaisons to the different departments in the city. But we don't have standing committees of the council. When we have a need for something like we're going into pay negotiations, we don't have a statutory finance committee that's set up. You know, we'll set up an ad hoc committee to deal with negotiations. If we have a particular ordinance that we want some council members to work on, we'll set up a short-term ad hoc committee for that. But we don't have a formal committee structure. Although in the city, you might also want to overlap. There are commissions in the city, and you might want to know how to navigate those. Things like Plan Commission that deals with rezonings, Board of Zoning Appeals that deals with issues that aren't rezonings, but somebody wants to do something that's not quite allowed in a zone, so they need special permission to do that. You got park boards and airport commissions and things like that. The only way to navigate those that I can think of is on the website, where there's a page for each. And if there's some important topic coming up at any one of those boards or commissions, there's usually something in the paper, the local newspaper ahead of time. But Goshen's website is www.goshenindiana.org.
We have 4 or 5 standing committees on the City Council. You got the Finance Committee, Planning and Development Committee, Public Works and Improvement Committee, Public Health and Safety Committee, and then we have, generally doing the budget hearing, we have the Finance Committee of the whole. And those committees are generally made up of 3 individuals, 2 from the majority party, 1 from the minority party. And if there's an ordinance that comes out, the council president will then assign that ordinance to that particular committee. The first person listed at the top of the committee is the chairperson, and they'll call a committee meeting. Committee meetings are public. Sometimes public input is taken, sometimes just for the committee, but the public is allowed to attend. We have generally in the last year had a lot of things go to the committee of the whole, which could sometimes be cumbersome when you have all 9 people discussing and trying to put forth a recommendation to bring back to the entire council, which is there already. But the committees are spread out to make sure that the workloads is shared evenly among the council members. Also remember our hotline number.
Yay!
We know it starts with 293.
294.
I guess the next question has sort of been answered. When are the council meetings and who are the council members? It's, go ahead.
Well, for Goshen City Council members, I'll have this information at the back of the room to pick up on the way out. I only made like 50 copies, so if you could share, if you're a couple, if you can share 1 copy, that would be helpful. Our city council meetings, excuse me, are generally on the 1st and 3rd Tuesday nights of every month at 7 o'clock. And they're in the Police and Courts building at 111 East Jefferson Street.
Our budget is so tight I couldn't afford to make copies. So if you go to the website, you get all the info, coei.org, that's our website. And we meet the 1st and 3rd, Mondays, 7 o'clock. Usually the committee meetings are sometimes before the council meetings. And committee meetings could be any time during the week as well, if something is referred to committee.
Let me say a little bit, too, about the process at the council meetings, because it's a little bit different in Elkhart than it is in Goshen. In Goshen, on every agenda that we have, right near the beginning of the agenda is an item called Privilege of the Floor. So if anybody comes to the council meeting and wants to speak to the council about anything that's not on the agenda, that's their opportunity. They don't have to sign up ahead of time to talk on anything. They can just show up and be heard. But we do ask that they be things that are directed at the council, because that's the body that's there that night. So they can get up and talk about that. And then every agenda item that comes up after that, they'll also have the opportunity to come up and talk without having to sign up ahead of time. We just ask that they give their name and address for the record when they're speaking. But there's a lot of opportunity to give input at a council meeting.
How's that Tuesday for the Goshen?
Yes, and 3rd Tuesdays.
Can you say the time and location for each again?
7 o'clock at the Police and Courts building. 111 East Jefferson.
Elkhart City Council is the first and third Mondays. 7 o'clock, City Hall, 229 South 2nd. And our agendas work the same way as Goshen, except the privilege of the floor is at the end of the meeting, or where you can come and you can speak on it. As he said, anything that the council has jurisdiction over. We also have this year a special section for neighborhood associations who want to come.
Can I have your attention, please? In the parking lot, there is lights on a white Buick LeSabre. Thank you.
We have a special agenda item for neighborhood associations who want to come and give counsel and input about what their neighborhood association is doing and anything that they're doing at the time that we might want to attend.
I'm going to ask about the home rule law that was enacted in 1980. I thought it was very interesting that at one point in time cities didn't have any powers, and talking to Mayor Moore, I'm confused about the home rule law and how they affect the governance of local governance.
Kayleen's dangerous because she's been studying local government. And actually home rule confuses some of us sometimes too. And that Indiana government book talks about local government, but interesting point is that in the Indiana Constitution there is no provision for city or town government. There's provision for county, state government, county government, township government, but cities and towns only exist at the will of the legislature, basically. And every once in a while they remind us of that. They say, we created you and we can get rid of you just as easily. So they keep us under their thumbs. Home rule basically says that cities and towns can do anything that the state doesn't tell them they can't do, basically. But there's a lot of things they tell us we can't do. You know, we can't really set our own property taxes, and that's one of your questions further down the line. We do to a certain degree, but they tell us what the upper limit is on those property taxes. So we don't really have what we call fiscal home rule. We can't pass a local food and beverage tax without the state's permission, or we can't pass gun laws that are more restrictive than the state's gun laws. There are a lot of things that they tell us we can't do, but the things that they're silent on we can do. You want to clarify that?
That's why we have legal counsel to help us clarify what we can and what we can't do. I think one of the biggest frustrations for Mayor Morris, once he took office, he found out all these things he couldn't do, you know, that he wanted to do. So that's been tough, but legal keeps us straight.
Yeah, and I thought actually that was an interesting question because everybody thinks that the buck stops at the mayor's office, and it doesn't necessarily always stop there. That's why I asked the question.